Thank you, Dan. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not going to read our speaker's entire bio. It's in the newsletter. It's quite fascinating bio, by the way. But Louis Bolden came to Orlando at Channel 6 in September of 2001. He's one of the investigative reporters for Channel 6. What you might find interesting is the last paragraph of the newsletter. He's a thrill seeker who has enjoyed skydiving, not me, hang gliding, not me, and parasailing, not me. So with that, please welcome Louis Bolden.
Bill, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for having me this afternoon. My name is Louis Bolden. I'm with News 6 WKMG, and I have been with the station for 24 years this September. Yeah, it's been a while. I started off as a general assignment reporter. I did that for 10 years. I had a couple of more assignments between there. And then 13 years ago, I was promoted to being an investigative and special projects reporter. And that's currently what I do. Before I get started, I know she's not here, but I do want to thank Mary White, my neighbor, for reaching out to me and connecting me with Bill. And when Bill told me the topic that he wanted me to speak about today, I was pleasantly surprised because most of the time when we get speaking invitations, people want to know how to get coverage for a certain event, or they want to know how to get one of our investigative reporters to take on an issue. But Bill said that he wanted me to talk about the station's commitment to community service. And the reason I was pleasantly surprised is because it means he noticed. And it means other people in the community have noticed what we're doing. And so to really talk about our commitment to service, you have to go back about 10 years. It has been a slow evolution. But 10 years ago, we got a new general manager who challenged us to think about who we wanted to be in the market as a station. And so we brainstormed, and that was the birth of our slogan, getting results. And so the idea behind the slogan was to double down on what it means to be local news, being hyper-focused on our communities and giving our audience something that they cannot get on national news. Because national news is not going to drill down and tell you what's going on in Altamont Springs and Palm Bay and Mount Dora unless it is huge. And so we wanted to double down on being local. And so our company, our parent company, hired a research firm, and they polled Central Florida news watchers to see what was important to them. Because if we were going to get results for our audience, we need to know what's important to our audience. And that research showed us that basically what's important to our audience falls into four categories. One is personal safety. The other is product alerts, children's safety, and scams and ripoffs. And that last category, scams and ripoffs, is the reason that I have a weekly franchise called Schemes and Ripoffs. And every Monday morning, I will highlight a scheme that is either going on nationally or right here in Central Florida. And no matter how big or how small it is, we report on it. Because when I say how small it is, sometimes you can look at a situation and you would say, I wouldn't fall for that. But every person who says that, 3 people fell for it. So there are a lot of schemes in Central Florida, and that's why we dedicated a once-a-week franchise to it. But the other thing, there are some other things that research highlighted for us is the audience likes investigative stories that help protect the little guy. Our audience likes stories on inflation and the different ways that it impacts your family, and also focusing on people who are making a difference in the community. And so for that category, we came up with what we call the Getting Results Award, where people in the community can nominate someone who they think is making a difference in their community. And then our anchor, Matt Austin, will often surprise people on the air and give them the Getting Results Award. So we really leaned into that. The other thing that we got from that research was that Central Florida news consumers want to know that their news personalities are also part of the community. And so that really struck with us, and we started brainstorming ideas of how to create community events. And last year, we came up with WKMG Hits the Road, and it has been very successful so far. And so our mission with WKMG Hits the Road is to get as deeply rooted into different geographic communities as possible, to avoid hit-and-run journalism. And hit-and-run journalism is when something happens in a community and the news outlets swoop into the community and cover that event, but then never go back to the community and never follow up on that thing that happened. And so we wanted to avoid that. And I'll show you some examples of that later on. We also wanted to tear down the silos in the newsroom and throughout the building. We wanted to get to know our neighbors and community, and to make sure everyone in the newsroom gets the opportunity to leverage their journalistic skills and become a multi-talented member of our team. Not just the on-air people, not just the editors, not just the producers. We wanted everyone in the newsroom in our building to be a part of that. And also to close the loop, and I'll talk a little more about that. So once we came up with our mission, then we had to figure out how we were going to do it. And so step one was to choose a zip code where we haven't had a lot of coverage for whatever reason. And then we wanted to open the lines of communication with each chosen zip code to gather story ideas, and then close the loop by teams of News 6 journalists becoming an advocate for that zip code. And step three, we wanted to identify a location for a live broadcast and invite the public to join us. And we will then showcase all of the stories that we've been collecting about that zip code. And one of our most recent WKMG Hits the Road events was in Ormond Beach. And the story ideas that we got from the public, because before we go, we send out that call to the public and say, what would you like for us to cover? And so in Ormond Beach, people really wanted to know about development, and a lot of people wanted to know about the history of Ormond Beach. And so this is an example of one of our Hits the Roads events. This was Ormond Beach.
Fresh off the Great American Race, WKMG hits the road to the birthplace of speed.
At a time when America had few paved roads, this hard beach was the race course for automobiles.
Ormond Beach is a treasure trove of history, but this community is not just about the past, they're also embracing the future.
It felt like it was a responsibility, and we had the opportunity to give it to the citizens.
And tackling the challenges head on.
I think they got the cart before the horse.
Tonight, we're telling your stories and digging into your concerns. And thank you for joining us on this very special edition on News 6 at 5 as we hit the road to Ormond Beach. I'm Lisa Bell.
Yeah, so glad to have you with us today. I'm Matt Austin, WKMG hitting the road today in the birthplace of speed. We are here at a fantastic restaurant called Grind's Gastro Pub here in downtown Ormond. We're getting to meet an incredible amount of people today.
Yeah, there's a great turnout here tonight, and why not? So far the weather's been nice. The food here is fantastic.
Good, yeah.
Yes, and we have tons of avid News 6 watchers who are here, and they have been emailing us for the past several weeks, letting us know about their concerns and what they love about this community, and we're so happy they came out here to join us tonight because it's been so great to meet everyone.
That's right, and I think I've tried just about everything on the menu, so we are having a really nice time out here. In case you aren't familiar, we have hit the road to a number of communities all across Central Florida like this one over the last year. We've been highlighting the concerns people have where they live, as well as the success stories and the hidden gems that just make these such amazing places to live. Here are some of the highlights there.
And today we are giving Ormond Beach that special treatment, covering everything from the community's rich history to forward-thinking efforts to preserve it for future generations, all to educate the rest of Central Florida on what this community has to offer.
A lot of people don't have any idea of what this area is about, and it's a beautiful community to live in. I love it.
All of our coverage has led to our live broadcast today. Our crews have been hard at work all morning. They have been setting up our temporary home away from home here outside of the News 6 studios here at Grind's Gastro Pub.
But unfortunately, our entire team could not be here today.
That's right. Meteorologist Julie Broughton stuck behind in our regular studio because the weather is a little bit complicated today, Julie.
That's right, Matt. I'm keeping a close eye on the radar.
Emily, thank you so much. Well, when you think of car racing, Daytona Beach probably is the place that comes to mind, especially recently. But a different city in Volusia County actually lays claim to the birthplace of speed. Of course, we're talking about Ormond Beach.
Yeah, that's right. And I met up with really a living encyclopedia who was recommended to us by one of our News 6 viewers to learn more about how automobile racing took off right here in Ormond Beach. When you walk along Ormond Beach, what you might not realize is underneath the seashells and soft sand lies a history more than 120 years in the making.
This monument just tells, this is the birthplace of speed monument.
The year was 1903.
It says at a time when America had few paved roads, this hard beach was a race course for automobiles. And they came here because this beach had such a gentle slope. And we have a different sand here than anywhere else in the world. It's quartzite, and it packs so beautifully.
Dan Smith is with the Motor Racing Heritage Association in Ormond Beach.
Around 1900, there was over 200 inventors scattered across America, North America, who wanted to be the guy that put America on wheels, who wanted to have the first successful automobile, but they had no place to test it.
For many of those inventors, Smith says Ormond Beach was the best of both worlds. In all, 16 major records were set here.
The first records here on our beach were in the 60-mile-an-hour range. Then next year, Vanderbilt came and set it at 92. It jumped pretty quick. Then by 1906, the steam car went 126, which blew everybody's mind. That lasted until 1958. By then, Big Bill France of NASCAR fame had taken it over. And Bill knew he needed a speedway. He needed a speedway because people could sneak in and see the races for free.
And the rest, they say, is history. And of course, we just saw it with the Daytona.
So I can't show you the entire newscast, but I thought that was a pretty good snapshot of what the WKMG Hits the Road events look like. We also covered many other things. We got a lot of requests to talk about the history, and so that was the piece that you saw. But we also, people wanted us to talk about some of the problems that they're seeing. And Ormond Beach is like every community in Central Florida in that we are growing, and development and how we grow is important, and traffic issues. And so we tackled those issues as well. One of the reasons that I like the call to action when we reach out to the community and say, hey, we're coming to your area, what would you like for us to cover, is because we actually learn things too. So our first Hits the Road was in the 32825 zip code. And a gentleman wrote in and said, please do something about the Lake Downey Mobile Home Park. And I've been a news director in Central Florida for more than 20 years, and I had never heard of the Lake Downey Mobile Home Park. And I was blown away when I saw it. And so this is also going to hit on the hit and run journalism that we talked about.
Well, we asked what you would like to focus on for us when we report in the 32825 zip code, and man, you answered.
And we appreciate it. A lot of people have concerns about the now abandoned Lake Downey Mobile Home Park. Investigator Lewis Bolden found there are potential plans in the works, but the timeline is still unclear. Lewis.
Well, Ginger and Matt, this started with a message that came into our In Your Neighborhood portal saying the condition of the now abandoned Downey Park Mobile Home Park is an embarrassment to the 32825 community and to the county. All of the tenants were evicted from the mobile home park last summer because the owner is trying to sell the property. And this is what's left behind. An area that was once plagued with problems is now a community eyesore, according to some. People in this area want to know if there is a plan for the property, and we found out. And we want to know what you think about the proposal. So scan the QR code, email me, and let me know.
Did I go to the park?
Rodney Haynes lives just feet from this park.
Let me get daddy phone.
But for years, his daughter Desire was not allowed to play there.
It was so bad over there, we couldn't even let the kids go out to the park. It's right next door to the house.
Because just on the other side of the fence is a different type of park, Lake Downey Mobile Home Park, with a long history.
The trailer park, it was really bad over there. A lot of drug activity, a lot of shootings, police is lined up down the gate, SWAT team.
The park has been abandoned for months now, so Haynes says that activity has stopped. But he says what's left behind is a nightmare too. A wasteland of falling down trailers, piles of trash, and stacks of debris.
It's unsafe. It's unsanitary. It's 100% an eyesore.
Angel Coleman is the office administrator for Faith United Methodist Church right across the street.
Just trash everywhere. It honestly looks like, you know, a bomb or a hurricane just went through there and put it into a disaster state.
It's also right next door to Union Park Elementary School.
What are we doing? What is the county doing? What is the mayor doing? What are we doing?
News 6 found out the county has hit the owner of the property with more than $3 million in fines. And now there is a proposal to build a new apartment complex. County officials say they are reviewing land use and zoning change applications, which include plans to build 360 multifamily apartment units. If approved, it would replace everything.
If that's the case, are they low income? Are they income based? It would have been nice for it to be cleaned up and be presentable and make it an environment for these people that were in there. But unfortunately, that's not where we are.
You're going to get on the bus tomorrow?
Haynes says there's already improvement.
But now all the little kids meet right there at the park and have fun.
A county spokesperson says the timeline is hard to nail down. It depends on the review process. Then there would be a public hearing and a final vote from county commissioners. Also, a county spokesperson says it is the property owner's responsibility to pull the permit to demolish and remove the mobile homes. Now, there are pending code violations that will go before the Code Enforcement Board in March. So you guys, of course, we will be following that.
That is not something you expect to see in America. You know?
It does not look like Orlando at all as we know it.
And the other people on the other side of that fence have so much pride in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
You don't want that, because it's just bad. And you wonder where the people who lived in the mobile home parks, where did they go?
They now?
That's what she was saying. That she was saying that they were lower income people, and so it would be nice if this apartment complex is,
right.
Yeah. All right, Louis Bolden.
Great job, Louis. All right, thank you.
So that was our very first piece on the Lake Downey Mobile Home Park. But remember our mission earlier, we wanted to avoid hit and run journalism. And so when we decided to cover it, So there were a series of stories that went after that initial story. And we kept following up with the county to say, where are we? When is this happening? And finally, we did so many stories that the county said, okay, enough is enough. We're not going to wait for the owner. We're going to clean up the property. And so this was the final story.
We came to the 32825 zip code when we hit the road, and now we're following up again here at this abandoned mobile home park. You called it an eyesore and a problem spot. Now it's finally being torn down. Despite the rain, the demolition is underway at the Lake Downey Mobile Home Park. County contractors are clearing the property along Dean Road, a long-awaited step.
We've had 2 fires in the last 3 weeks. We had squatters. We've had drug paraphernalia. We've had very unsafe environment. But there finally gets to a point where you start saying, we need an action. And what you're seeing today is an action.
Orange County recently expedited the permit for this work to begin, taking action despite the property owners. Our News 6 investigators found out they have racked up more than $3 million in fines. What responsibility will the owner bear for what this property has done to this community?
The owner's already bearing a lot. They're already bearing a daily fee. They're going to bear the cost of this also. I don't know where ultimately, if it becomes a legal issue, I don't know, to that extent, but they're held responsible.
We wanted to talk to someone who lives and works here.
I've worked here for 7 years, and, I've seen the community full of people and kids.
So in those 7 years, was at one point this, still a vibrant part of the community?
Yes.
Angel Coleman is an office administrator at Faith United Methodist Church right across the street.
But you would like to see affordable housing? 100% affordable housing. We know we have families in the area or, people that just can't stretch their dollars.
I hope that years from now we can come back and say this once was. There's a lot of steps that'll have to happen before that happens. I know that there is a developer who wanted to build housing, here and things like that. I don't know if that's still an opportunity. Those are like way ahead.
Do you think something will be done sooner rather than later?
I hope so. I'm trying. We know we need housing. We know that something better could be built here that could be prosperous for everyone around.
In Orange County, Catherine Silver, Getting Results, News 6.
So we were proud to be able to see that through from beginning to end. And now when you drive by there, it is all cleared. It is just a beautiful piece of property that is waiting to be developed. And so we wanted to, that's what we try to focus on in the newsroom, is when there is an issue, following it through from beginning to end. And like I said, there were a series of stories that went between those two, but we don't have time for me to play all of them for you. So that is the end of the presentation. I will be happy to take any questions you might have.
Questions, yes.
I wanted to thank you for doing this kind of story, because the elected leaders need a fire under them. It's not happening. I live actually on Colonial in an apartment building, and there's a lot of talk about affordable housing. And all down Colonial and many parts of our area, we have malls and strip malls that are empty, that could be sold, demolished, and redeveloped into housing. And we need your help to tell those stories, because there's so many discussions about preserving rural land. Mm-hmm. And instead of developing rural land, we could repurpose all of these, malls that are falling apart.
I think that's a very good point. And we're seeing malls fall apart all over the place. And that's not just a Central Florida issue, that is happening around the country. So I'll give you a card and we can talk more about it. The county, I feel like our county officials do the best they can. But what we as journalists do is we shine the light on situations. And sometimes it takes having that light on it to bring it to people's attention. So I'll give you a card and we can talk more about what we can possibly do. Any other questions?
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Last week we had Judith Smeltzer from Central Florida Media. Mm-hmm. She talked a little bit about the journalism collaboration effort. Can you talk a little bit about that and how Channel 6 is engaging with it? Because honestly, there hasn't been a great deal of, I'm going to say, visibility of that effort yet.
And you know what, Bill, I've been here, it'll be 24 years in September. I don't know that this has ever been done. Media outlets pooling resources all together to tackle a common problem. And this just came about a few months ago. So I'm glad that Judith spoke about it. WKMG is very proud to be a part of that. In fact, we are getting we call it a data dump tomorrow with a lot of information about the homeless problem. And so that's what we're going to be tackling as a group.
Okay, got a couple of questions coming up.
Thank you for the interesting presentation. I get a chance to talk to the younger generation quite often, Gen X, Gen Z. None of them, when I talk to them about media, talking about cable news, radio, print, it's like talking about ancient history. They get all the information from social media, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. And as you know, that is, like the old Wild West. It's rife full of disinformation and everything else. I noticed on your website, you have Instagram accounts, you have X account. I don't know if you have a YouTube account. What percentage of your audience or what percentage of the actual news content do you relate to the younger generations? Do you have any statistics and what are you thinking about that?
I don't know the stats right off the top of my head, but I can tell you that we are very aware of that in the news business. Because that has been an ongoing issue. How do you reach those younger viewers? And it's something, honestly, that all television stations are grappling with, because the model of news that we all follow, quite frankly, is archaic at this point, okay? Because we live in a time when I can pick up my phone and order something from Amazon right now, and it will be at my house this evening. And so the model of people sitting down in front of the TV at 4, 5, and 6 to get the news, it's archaic. And so the reason you see news stations with Instagram accounts and Facebook accounts and TikTok accounts and YouTube accounts is because we're trying to reach those younger viewers where they are. And people that age aren't, I mean, all of us, we don't have to wait for anything anymore. And so we're trying to break that model, and all TV stations are trying to figure out how to do it right now. But we are trying to break that model and come up with something that is more modern. The website is always there. You can always go to clickorlando.com. You can always get push alerts from our new 6 Plus app. But that's why we have social media accounts, because we're trying to reach those younger viewers where they are with information they can use. Very good question.
Thank you for your presentation. I had a question about, with all the changes that are happening on the national level with budget cuts, Department of Education, things of that sort, do you all have a department or a segment dedicated to kind of breaking down changing of laws and legislation and the effect that it has on our local community, both positive and negative?
We don't. We don't. Because we have tried to double down on local news. But that's an interesting point, because you have to find that balance of how much local do we cover, and then how much of the national things do we leave for the national guys, or do we find an angle that impacts us directly in Central Florida? So we don't have a department that deals with that, but we discuss that every day in our editorial meetings. How do we attack that? Good question.
Louis, you mentioned the archaic model, and I'd like you to address something that beyond that. You know, if we go back to Walter Cronkite, or even 30 years ago, you'd have CNN with their tagline, the most trusted name in news or whatever. But today, very little trust goes to those organizations and the talking heads that are way out in the internet or TV somewhere. What are you finding your acceptance here as newsmen vis-a-vis the national figures that are seeing less and less trust?
News has a credibility issue right now, particularly on the national level. And the research that we've gotten is that local news is often more trusted than national news at this point. And so we wanted to double down on that. And that's one of the reasons we created WKMG Hits the Road, is so that we could get into the community, we can meet people, we can talk to people, and build that trust. You're right, it has, at the national level, it has been eroded. And we're at a time now where information is coming from so many places. And as you mentioned, sometimes people don't know what's real and what's not real on social media, because news outlets, legitimate news outlets, are on social media. But you also get a lot of made up things on social media too. So, but the trust issue, the credibility issue, is something that we are working on every single day.
Thanks to President Dan and Bill invite me to attend this meeting. It's a very, very open to my originally I have misconcept about investigative journalism. As I mentioned to you, my son is also a reporter in New York, channel Fox News. That he actually is the weekend anchor, Arthur Chen. But that's not his. Thank you. I learned from you. Investigative reporting is also covered local too, because originally I thought it was different vista, like who killed Dr. Martin Luther King, what the stories about certain historical events. But I learned now your version of the investigative. Thank you.
Of course, I have a question for you. Does your son work for Fox News or the New York local Fox station?
Fox News, I think local.
Okay. Okay. Excellent.
Any other questions? Louis, thank you.
Of course.
Thanks for being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, don't go too far. I actually have a quick comment first and then a question. The first comment is, you talk about local news credibility and some of the issues it has. And I'm not going to lie, I have my iPad up here. And when you started talking about Ormond Beach being the first place where they raced on the beach, I questioned that. So I pulled it up and lo and behold, it turns out Tommy won the race back in 1906. So yeah, that was it. It turned out to be true. And then the other thing is that corruption at the local level seems to have hit a new high. And I wish there was some kind of an investigation into the reverse raffle up in Lake Mary. I think that we could really find out the truth behind who really won that. So thank you. I appreciate that. But we do appreciate you being here. And we've done some investigating ourselves. And what we investigated and found is that we've got a number of mugs that are very, very special. They are very rare. There's only 1.4 million of these around the world. And we would love nothing better than if you were on camera one day and you held that up. That would be fantastic. Thank you. Thank you.